Hi, Viking TV. My name is Elizabeth Canavan-Palermo. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Growth and Sales in Mississippi, and I'm based in our Boston office. I've been with Viking for almost 4 years now, and I'm very excited to return and spend another afternoon with you. We're going to start with an overview presentation of our New Orleans and Southern Charms itinerary, followed by a Q&A session, where I'll be joined by my colleague Tom Hook, who's the Manager of Enrichment and Entertainment on the Mississippi, and he's also an accomplished musician himself. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you soon.
I'm happy to be sharing one of our newest river offerings with you today, a breathtaking voyage along the lower Mississippi River on a round-trip sailing from New Orleans. It is thrilling for Viking to be in the U.S. river market and to help guests explore parts of the U.S. that we haven't been able to take them to before. If you have traveled with us before, you know Viking has set the standard for river cruising, and now we've applied that expertise to the mighty Mississippi. We are bringing our signature serene Scandinavian design touches to you on the Viking Mississippi. You will be able to see unique plant and wildlife up and down the length of the river and enjoy the best our ports of call have to offer, all from the comfort of your beautifully designed staterooms. Today, we will focus on one of our signature voyages in North America called New Orleans and Southern Charms. In 8 days, you will visit several fascinating ports brimming with history in 2 states, Louisiana and Mississippi. You will discover the cities of New Orleans, Darrow, St. Francisville, Natchez, Vicksburg, and Baton Rouge as you sail along the Mississippi River. Now, let's look at how you will travel round trip from New Orleans.
Join Viking for 8 intriguing days along Old Man River, the mighty Mississippi, immersing yourself in its storied cities, majestic architecture, and tasty cuisine. In New Orleans, Louisiana, the festive French Quarter beckons, inviting you to sample impromptu jazz performances or to stop and sample beignets at one of the area's iconic coffee houses. As you travel north along the vast Mississippi, you'll explore traditional estates that long ago were powerful players in the region's cotton and sugar-producing past. You'll also have the opportunity to take in a powerful gospel performance that will delight and inspire. In St. Francisville, Southern gardens and rich traditions add to your in-depth understanding of this distinctive region. The legendary Myrtles Estate, built in the Creole cottage style, impresses with its diversity of architectural principles. Mississippi's Natchez practically defines the South, with over 500 vintage historic homes and buildings. Storied Vicksburg was the site of a pivotal Civil War battle. Often called the key to the South, history comes to life on the grounds of Vicksburg's National Military Park. An immersive behind-the-scenes experience will highlight your day with Southern culture and history. In charming Baton Rouge, immerse yourself in Cajun culture. Meet the people, enjoy their stories, taste their distinctive cuisine, and tap your feet to the infectious music. Your Viking journey concludes back in the Big Easy, spectacular New Orleans, where those who've long called it home love to say, laissez le bon temps rouler, let the good times roll.
Let's refer to the itinerary map for a visual of your route. Your adventure begins in New Orleans, Louisiana. Next, you'll sail along the Mississippi River to visit Darrow, followed by St. Francisville. Then you'll make your way to the state of Mississippi and stop in both Natchez and Vicksburg before heading back to Louisiana via Baton Rouge. Then your journey with Viking concludes where it began, back in New Orleans. If you'd like to arrive early and take in the excitement of New Orleans prior to your trip, I'm delighted to share one of our pre-extension packages in Louisiana. Spend 2 nights exploring the best of the Big Easy on this pre-extension package that gives you more time to explore historic New Orleans. Take a stroll through the French Quarter and see some of the city's most vibrant neighborhoods and offerings. You may even get to try some of the area's most delicious food, or you could spend one night at a historic New Orleans hotel located right near Bourbon Street and the charming Garden District. Let's talk about the Viking Way and what it means to be on a Viking voyage. Onshore experiences will get you closer to the history, culture, and daily life of each destination you visit with Viking. An included excursion is available in all ports, plus the Viking Way of exploration, allowing you to immerse yourself in those destinations with behind-the-scenes insights as follows on the Mississippi River. Local life. These experiences provide fascinating insights that reveal the rhythms of daily living. Examples include discovering the machinery that farmed America at the John Deere Pavilion, or visiting Restaurant 1818 to savor lunch and sample historic craft cocktails created in the South like the Sazerac and the Mint Julep. Working world. On these excursions, you will get a glimpse of the world at work, including local industries and arts and crafts. You will see and understand local people anew. Examples include exploring a family-run Iowa dairy farm, gaining insight into local artistry and craftsmanship, and trying your hand at an art project with a local artist, and visiting one of America's oldest breweries. Privileged access. Viking has arranged exclusive entry for our guests to discover local cultural treasures. These are experiences that are not open to the general public, and you will not find them through any other company. Some examples are reliving the Norwegian immigrant experience at Vesterheim, the National Norwegian American Museum, or experiencing Cajun culture through music, folktales, and food at a program designed just for Viking guests at the Rural Life Museum. Now, let's take a moment to focus on the majestic backdrop of this itinerary, the mighty Mississippi. This river is one of the world's largest river systems and most important commercial waterways. It is the second longest river in North America and runs from Lake Itasca in Minnesota in the north all the way down to Louisiana and the Gulf of Mexico in the south. The Mississippi River is home to incredible biodiversity. Millions of birds migrate along the Mississippi Flyway year after year, and a variety of animals inhabit the river, as well as its marshes and adjacent land. There are also several plants that thrive along the river and its tributaries, like cattails, spider lilies, and cypress trees. And now a few words about weather and when to travel. This itinerary is offered in January and December. Temperatures in New Orleans and along the Mississippi River, where you'll be traveling on this itinerary, are very mild during these months, typically staying in the 50s Fahrenheit. So be sure to pack layers that are wearable during sunnier days and cooler nights. What if you want to maximize your opportunities to see wildlife? Well, as I stated on the previous slide, millions of migratory birds fly through the Mississippi Flyway, traveling from the upper to the lower Mississippi and back again. Winter is often the best time of year to see bald eagles, which build large nests in tall trees along the river, and you may see a variety of other species such as alligators, beavers, and otters year-round. Now let's take a closer look at the new Viking Mississippi. We have applied more than 2 decades of experience and expertise in river and ocean voyages to create the perfect Mississippi River cruising experience. The Viking Mississippi will live up to our commitment to you to keep exploring the world in comfort. For Mississippi River voyages, Viking is proud to introduce a new, purpose-built ship that features a cutting-edge design, expansive windows, and comfortable amenities. The new state-of-the-art Viking Mississippi is inspired by our award-winning Viking longships and ocean ships and will feature clean Scandinavian design as well as public spaces that are both familiar to guests and new. On this ship, you can take in panoramic views of the Mississippi as you cruise along one of America's most historic waterways. We celebrated the float out of the Viking Mississippi only a few months ago. Here's a short video.
As we are celebrating 25 years this year, it's the natural time to come out with something new for the Mississippi.
It's a very exciting project. This ship is the first major cruise ship to be built in the U.S. since 20-some years ago.
6:30 in the morning we started moving. 8:30 it was done. All this tons of steel just rolled so easy, so smooth. I'm super proud.
Once it goes completely on the dock, the floating dry dock is then filled with water, so it starts to sink. As it sinks, the ship starts to float. It was a very impressive event to see. I was excited to be a part of that. Then the ship is floated out. It's completely watertight. It's painted, all the machinery is in place. From that point forward, we're in, say, final outfitting phase.
I'm very, very satisfied. This float-off event is a milestone that we're very happy to see, very successful.
It's amazing. Everybody's proud. You can tell every worker's proud. Everybody was clapping and cheering. I had to step aside for a little while and just, I'm feeling it right now. Yeah.
This is bringing modern cruise ship design to the river.
As guests stand on the pier and look at this beautiful ship in front of them, they will know who the parents are, because we have continued the Viking traditions and Scandinavian feel.
This is gonna be one of a kind. It's gonna be an amazing way to view the Mississippi.
Now, let's explore this 8-day itinerary day by day. Welcome to New Orleans, Louisiana, where your voyage begins. The birthplace of American jazz, this city is known for its festive atmosphere, diverse culture, and tantalizing cuisine. You will have time to get settled into your awaiting ship and then attend a briefing for the following day. Enjoy a cocktail as your voyage begins and you prepare to explore the wonders that await you along the Mississippi River. A stroll through the French Quarter is a fantastic way to see one of the most evocative neighborhoods in the country. You will be guided by a local expert who will narrate the history of this 85 square block area, also known as the Vieux Carré, or Old Square. You will see a variety of famous landmarks, including the Cabildo, where the Louisiana Purchase was signed. Your guide will also share several dining recommendations with you so you can try some of the area's famous dishes and drinks. You may also want to enjoy one of Viking's privileged access experiences. In New Orleans, you can attend a private concert at the French Quarter home of premier jazz clarinetist Tim Laughlin. Before the concert, you will be treated to a glass of wine or champagne as you learn about the Laughlin's home, which overlooks Royal Street. Then you'll enjoy an entrancing clarinet performance from Tim himself, accompanied by a guest pianist. The lower Mississippi is calling your name on day 3 of your Viking voyage. Darrow is known for its many historic homes. While you are here, you may choose to explore some of the area's landmarks or journey through the marshes on a boat tour through the Louisiana Bayou. You will have the opportunity, if you so choose, to visit a historic Creole home during a privileged access tour of Laura Plantation. This landmark is on the National Register of Historic Places and is one of only 15 Louisiana historic homes to still have intact outbuildings. Here you will have exclusive access behind the scenes for a closer look at the artifacts and heirlooms on site and take part in private tours of the original home and gardens. Your Viking cruise ship will continue north to St. Francisville, Louisiana. This is also the midway point of your voyage. This city is nestled along one of the Mississippi River's most historic bluffs and boasts of over 140 buildings on the National Register of Historic Places. It was founded back in 1809 and is the oldest town in Louisiana's Florida parishes, a region of Louisiana along the southern Mississippi state line. While in St. Francisville, you can choose to visit the Oakley Plantation, where John James Audubon created 32 bird paintings in the 19th century. This home is nestled among flourishing nature trails that you can explore, just like Audubon did during his time at Oakley. Let's spend a moment to talk about some of the amenities on board your Viking Mississippi ship. The best views of vast wilderness along the Mississippi River can be seen from the full 360-degree promenade deck, or the Aquavie Terrace, a revolutionary indoor and outdoor viewing area for al fresco dining. If you're looking to relax and unwind during your river cruise, the Viking Mississippi offers plenty of opportunities to do so. You might order a cocktail in the Explorer's Lounge and Bar and take in the two-story panoramic views of the Mississippi. Or you may want to sip a cup of coffee while reading on the bow, a quiet seating area at the front of the ship. The entire ship, including your comfortable stateroom, offers a variety of tranquil spaces for you to enjoy while on board. We also have many enrichment events available. For instance, you may choose to attend an onboard enrichment lecture to learn more about the history, culture, or wildlife of New Orleans and the lower Mississippi. You may also view performances from local musicians and dancers to immerse yourself in the culture and traditions of the region as part of our onboard cultural curriculum. Here, for example, is a clip from a prior Viking.TV episode with Wendell Brunius, who will be one of the fabulous entertainers that will join us on board the Viking Mississippi.
The music that would become known as jazz was developed around New Orleans in the early 20th century. It was an extension of music that they called ragtime music, where musicians infused syncopated rhythms into European quadrilles and songs like that. And it just took the world by storm. In the early part of the 20th century, the great Scott Joplin developed ragtime music as a force. And when he played at the St. Louis World's Fair, it took the world by storm. This song was actually written by the great Irving Berlin, and ragtime had such an influence on him, he called this song Alexander's Ragtime Band.
Let's continue our voyage. On day 5, you will reach a new state, Mississippi. Welcome to the historic city of Natchez. This is picturesque small-town America with more than 500 historic buildings, including more than 200 perfectly preserved homes. Here, you can shop and dine in the historic district and explore sites throughout the city, including a variety of structures that are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Learn about local history on a Best of Natchez tour, a shore excursion included with your cruise. You will take in panoramic views of the small town and visit historic homes and buildings, such as Rosalie Mansion and Gardens, St. Mary's Basilica, and Stanton Hall, shown here. You will also visit other prominent sites, including a new monument called Proud to Take a Stand, which honors Natchez citizens who were wrongfully incarcerated during the Civil Rights Movement. One of my favorite shore excursions here in Natchez is a visit to the Grand Village of the Natchez Indians. On this shore excursion, you will learn about the history and culture of the Natchez people, among North America's many indigenous groups. You will have the chance to see Emerald Mound, the second largest temple mound in North America, which was a spiritual, political, and ceremonial center for the Natchez people. Called the Key to the South by Abraham Lincoln and known for its Civil War history. The city was the site of the Civil War's most pivotal battle, the Battle of Vicksburg. Here you can visit Vicksburg's National Military Park, which preserves the battlefield, or take a walk through the city's historic neighborhoods. The Vicksburg National Military Park is the historic site where the Battle of Vicksburg ended and the tide of the Civil War turned. Take a tour guided by a National Park Ranger who will share insightful details of the park's historic monuments and exhibits, including the Civil War Memorial, the Illinois Monument, shown here. Baton Rouge is a place like no other, set on the eastern bank of the Mississippi River, and with some locals friendlier than others, like this alligator shown here. Here, you can learn about Cajun culture and history on a Cajun heritage tour, or explore the Atchafalaya Basin by boat or canoe. Baton Rouge has some of the most delicious food in Louisiana, so food enthusiasts are in for an enriching experience here. See the best of Baton Rouge on this enriching tour of the city's most prominent landmarks. You will visit the Old Governor's Mansion, shown here, one of the South's many sites on the National Register of Historic Places. You will also see the new and old state capitals, which reflect differing architectural designs in their own unique way. The Capitol Park Museum will offer an opportunity to peruse informative and insightful exhibits on the state's history, industry, and culture. You can experience Cajun culture on a privileged access tour of the Rural Life Museum at Louisiana State University. Here you will sample Cajun cuisine, enjoy music and dance performances, and learn about the rural Louisiana lifestyle of the 18th and 19th centuries in a program put together exclusively for Viking guests. This museum includes an artifact-filled exhibit barn, plantation quarters, as well as a collection of Louisiana folk architecture to give patrons an authentic look into Cajun heritage. Your journey with Viking concludes back in New Orleans. After breakfast on board, many of you will disembark and proceed to the airport for your return flight home. Or perhaps you've opted to continue your voyage with one of our post-extension packages. We have a very special 2-night post-extension package in Lafayette. This is perfect for nature and wildlife lovers, as it gives you the opportunity to travel to the heart of Louisiana's Cajun country. Or you can extend your trip on a 2-night post-extension package that offers the best of the Big Easy. Take some extra time to appreciate New Orleans' iconic cuisine, music, and culture. While we're talking about New Orleans, I'd like to mention another Mississippi voyage. This is for anyone interested in experiencing many of these same ports, but during the holidays. We have a special seasonal itinerary in 2022. Mississippi holiday season is a fantastic option for December travel. This itinerary takes you from Memphis to New Orleans or the reverse. In only 8 days, you'll visit a total of 3 states, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee. You'll be able to see Graceland decorated for Christmas and maybe even catch a lighted boat parade in New Orleans. Incidentally, 2022 marks the 45th anniversary of Elvis's passing. Seeing Graceland and visiting Memphis will give you a chance to revisit his legacy, especially his catalog of music and his very recognizable style. Plus, back on the Viking Mississippi, we'll treat you to regional cuisine, seasonal treats, and so much more to celebrate the holidays in comfort. Thank you for joining me today on Viking.TV. This concludes our presentation. Now it's time for your questions. Okay, and now we're ready for our Q&A. My other colleague, Paul, is going to help share some of your questions with me and Tom, and hopefully we can answer them.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Our first question comes from Stephen in Morristown and Kyle from Durham, and they both ask, how do the Mississippi riverboats differ from those in Europe, as well as the ocean and expedition ships?
Yes, of course. So the Viking Mississippi is, in my opinion, a blend of some of the best elements from the other ships that Viking welcomes passengers on. So like our long ships in Europe, you'll see kind of our curved bow where we have a wonderful seating area on the front. It's able to navigate up and down the Mississippi, which means the design from the outside does look similar to a long ship. We also have a main restaurant called the restaurant, and then we start blending in some elements from our ocean and expedition ships. So on deck 5, we have the River Cafe, which is inspired in some ways by the World Cafe and the Pool Grill on some of our other ships, but with our own Mississippi flair focused on regional foods along the Mississippi. We also have an Explorer's Lounge that spans deck 1 and deck 2. And then if you're looking at the cabins themselves, we have cabins that are very similar to our ocean ships with many of the same cabins with 2 new cabin categories, our French balcony cabins, which are fully accessible, and then also our terrace suites, which are similar to penthouse junior suites, but kind of rotated 90 degrees. So you have a much longer balcony than you'll find on the penthouse junior suites. But when you step on the Viking Mississippi, it will feel very much like you're on a Viking ship, just a little bit ocean, a little bit expedition, a little bit long ship, and in the United States along the Mississippi River.
Thanks, Elizabeth. David from Dubuque asks, what can you tell us about Queen Clarinet, Doreen Ketchens and her glorious street music with husband Lawrence on tuba and daughter Dorian on drums?
Yeah, Doreen is one of New Orleans' favorite hometown musicians. She's played with her family on the same corner on Royal Street in the French Quarter for years, and has a tremendous following of people who've seen her over the decades, and always a large crowd around the band. They play traditional New Orleans jazz, and Doreen prefers to play in the street. Occasionally, she'll appear in a club or on stage, but most of the time, she prefers playing outside. And she's a tremendous talent and a real sweetheart. The whole family are wonderful people. It's a very New Orleans experience to see Doreen in the Quarter on Royal Street.
Thanks, Tom. Trevor from the United Kingdom asks, what is the best experience of New Orleans?
Well,
Tom,
to me,
do you want to start?
Yeah, I think it's a personal thing, but to me, New Orleans is about food and it's about music. And so there's a number of course, world-class restaurants in New Orleans. It's hard to get a bad meal in New Orleans. And of course, there's so many music venues in the French Quarter. So a great way to combine that might be to go to have a dinner at one of the wonderful old Creole restaurants like Arnaud's. and then go to world famous Preservation Hall just a block away and listen to some traditional jazz. There's a number of combinations you can do like that to choose from, but to get the real spirit of New Orleans is to do that and then stroll over to Jackson Square for some chicory coffee with beignets, and you've got it.
Looks like Tom has a whole day planned out for everyone. If you pinned me down and asked me what one of my favorite things is in New Orleans, I'd have two answers. One, if we're going to the music, food, cocktail route, I absolutely love going to the Bourbon O Bar when there's live music in there and getting a classic New Orleans cocktail, a Sazerac or a Ramos Gin Fizz. They just taste better in New Orleans, I think, when you know that's where they were invented. Or for me, I think the World War II Museum is just a fascinating experience. They have a really special collection of memorabilia from U.S. veterans that fought, that family members have donated, and the curation team there has just done an excellent job kind of taking you through what that experience was like, both, you know, at sea on the battlefields, but also at home in the U.S. And I've been there a few times and I still feel like I haven't seen most of what's there, but you won't get that anywhere else but New Orleans.
Amanda in Toronto asks, will there be a series of interesting lectures on the Viking Mississippi available like there is on Viking ocean ships?
Yes, we have some in-house lectures that will be given by our program director, but one of the things we focused on is bringing on guest lectures in almost every port that we visit to give a talk that's about that specific destination that we are visiting. So, for example, on a 14-day cruise, we would have a lecture in New Orleans on New Orleans cuisine. The next day, we'd have a lecture on the battles of Baton Rouge, the Revolutionary War and Civil War battles. The next day, we would visit have a visit from the curator of the Natchez Museum of African American History and Culture. They'd have a lecture on the African American experience in Natchez. Then as we get to Vicksburg, we'd have somebody come on from the Army Corps of Engineers and talk about ecology and fisheries. We'll have lectures in Memphis talking about the history of Memphis. A man will come on and talk about the Great New Madrid earthquake, 9.0 on the Richter scale back in 1811. Then as we go upriver, each lecture is tied to the region. We talk about the Mormonizing of the Midwest when we're in St. Louis. We talk about the great naturalist Aldo Leopold when we visit his hometown of Burlington. In La Crosse, we bring on an expert on the Norwegian Hardringer fiddle, talking about folk music and the Norwegian diaspora that brought so many Scandinavians to the upper Midwest. So each lecture is tied to the region that we visit.
Great, thanks, Tom. Stuart asks, we are booked on a fall 2023 Memphis to New Orleans voyage on the Mississippi. Could you talk about the New Orleans extension, and are the selected hotels within walking distance of the French Quarter and Centre, and what tours, if any, are offered on the extension?
Sure. So as with other Viking extensions, you know, we typically have hotels that we like to bring guests to. We can't always guarantee that space is available, but we will have hotels within walking distance of the French Quarter, but we'll also, you know, have shuttles available to the French Quarter, depending on, or just adjacent to, because like many small historic city centers, there are restrictions on where buses can go and how big they can be. And then in terms of the programming, I can't speak to all of the options that will be available off the top of my head, but we will have a walking tour available of New Orleans, the French Quarter specifically. We'll have a panoramic tour of the city, which you might be familiar with, that Viking does in a lot of cities worldwide. And then depending on what's going on in New Orleans, fall of 2023, we'll have some other options for you. Might include the opportunity to do a jazz brunch and kind of other things. But I would say stay tuned as you're getting closer to your extension starting, and we'll have a much clearer picture for you on exactly what options may be available.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Bill says, can you describe the onboard entertainment, live music, and cultural events?
Yes, one of the things that we felt that was unique about the Mississippi experience was the fact that so much of the world's popular music evolved in the Mississippi Valley. So what we decided to do is, as we made our way upriver, we would focus on each port and the associated music that evolved there that became popular all over the globe. So on that same 14-day itinerary I just talked about, in New Orleans, we'd have a presentation that evening of New Orleans jazz by world-renowned jazz trumpeter Wendell Brunius. As we go upriver to the next port, we're going to have a presentation of gospel music featuring Topsy Chapman, star of screen and radio and one of America's great gospel performers. When we get to St. Francisville, we'll have Bruce Daguerpont come on aboard the vessel and do a presentation of authentic Cajun music and talk about Cajun culture and Cajun music. As we go further up, we'll have Chris Gill come on and play a program of Delta Blues, acoustic and electric Delta Blues. And then there'll be music of the Civil War presented by Dan Knowles, championship banjo player, when we get to Vicksburg. Then as we go further into the Delta, we'll start bringing on artists like Kia Johnson, who'll do a presentation of Memphis soul music. And she was an American Idol finalist and does a wonderful presentation of the soul music that evolved from Memphis. When we get to Memphis, we'll have a presentation on rockabilly music by Brad Burkdahl, who's one of the premier rockabilly artists from America. And then as we go further upriver, we have a man come on and do a presentation about the writing of Mark Twain when we're in Hannibal. And then we present hot jazz in Davenport, which is tied to Bix Beiderbecke, great trumpet player from Davenport. We bring on a classical entertainer to play classical music when we're in Iowa, because there is such a huge amount of great classical music that came out of Iowa. Antonin Dvorak wrote his wonderful symphony there when he lived in Iowa. Then we also will bring on entertainers to do a presentation on American folk music, and finally finish up the cruise with an evening of polka music by musicians from St. Paul, who will come on and play some Scandinavian and German and Eastern European polka music. So it's the entire gamut of American popular music that evolved from the Mississippi Delta.
Thanks, Tom. Mika asks, I'm going on the sailing on September 17th. My walking is not too good, so are the excursions to the mansions, etc., walkable from the ship? And are there any wheelchairs on board to use for that reason?
It will depend on the port in terms of whether any of the historic homes or other sites are walkable. But if they aren't, as Viking does in all other ports, we'll be providing ground transportation, coaches, or other, small buses and vans to get you where you need to go. Viking does not make wheelchairs available on the ship. But if you need one, we just recommend that you bring whatever mobility aids that you need. And if you need a wheelchair while you're in your cabin, we just ask that you make sure that you either are booking one of our accessible cabins and or making sure that what you're bringing with you, will fit between the cabin doorways and other doorways on the ship. But all that information would be available from Viking customer service. We want to make sure that you're comfortable and able to navigate the ship and our port and Shorex destinations. And we also just want to make sure you don't have any surprises when you are on board our ship, which is fully accessible for folks that are in wheelchairs or need other mobility aids.
Thank you. Fred from Mansfield asks, what bird life could we expect to see on the Mississippi during January?
The Mississippi Flyway is one of the largest flyways in the world. 325 species of birds use the flyway year-round to migrate from North America to South and Central America. 40% of the waterfowl and shorebirds in the United States use the Mississippi Flyway. So in January, you would find all of those birds. You'd find all the raptors. There'd be hawks and owls and eagles. The bald eagle, the osprey would be there. Then there's going to be the shorebirds that always live in Louisiana, the pelicans, the ibis, the egrets, the great blue heron, all live in Louisiana. You have, of course, your shorebirds like the terns and all the different gulls that live in the Gulf. And then all of the songbirds from the northern American continent will also, many of them will winter over in Louisiana. So you have all the robins and wrens and sparrows and mockingbirds and the conventional hardwood forest songbirds that you'd expect to find. One of the interesting things is we have a large population of hummingbirds that winter over in Louisiana from the northern part of the country. So there's a great variety of birds to be found in Louisiana in the winter.
Dee from Newburn asks, do the Viking Mississippi ships have a no smoking policy?
Nope. The smoking policy on the Viking Mississippi is similar to what you'll find on our other ships. There's a designated smoking area, and we, ask and will enforce that you smoke there, but elsewhere on the ship you can't smoke.
Thank you. Joe from Redondo Beach asks, we know the river has periods when it rises and many ships are unable to pass below the bridges. Is that possible with the Viking Mississippi? If so, what happens to the cruise schedule?
The bridges on the Mississippi River are built high enough to accommodate all traffic on the river, except for extreme circumstances when the river is at maximum flood stage. And there's one bridge in Hannibal that is the most problematic of all. But without a doubt, most of the time, there's not an issue with going underneath bridges, especially south of St. Louis. There are where all the bridges across the river are built to accommodate large vessels, and then below Baton Rouge, they're built to accommodate ocean-going vessels.
Yep, and we've designed our deployment such that we will, our goal, knock on wood, though we can't predict extreme weather, is that we would be south of that bridge in Hannibal that Tom mentioned before the river level becomes an issue. So that's why you'll see that the deployment does vary seasonally. So the deployment or the itinerary that I had the presentation on at the beginning of this episode was focused on New Orleans and Southern Charms. You'll see that runs in the winter, in part because of the actual temperature, but because of the river levels. You'll also see that we run our Heart of the Delta itinerary during certain times of the year, not just because of the river levels for the bridge in Hannibal, but we've designed it so that we're avoiding that bridge where we could get stuck, so that we're not there during a time of year where the water levels would be problematic typically.
Thank you. Diana in the United States asks, are there any spa or salon services on the Viking Mississippi ships?
No, there are not. In that sense, we are similar to a longship. There's no spa or salon.
Thank you. And Bonnie in New Orleans asks, what hotels in New Orleans are included in pre-post packages?
It just depends. I think similar to what we see on our other products, Viking varies the hotels that we take folks to. You'll be in Viking quality hotels near the French Quarter, but we're not giving specifics at this point in time. But if you book an extension, you'll certainly get your hotel information before you hop on that plane to come to New Orleans.
Thanks, Elizabeth. And David asks, where does the ship dock at departure and arrival?
In New Orleans, we dock, the Port of New Orleans has a lot of space along the riverfront, and we'll be at one of the locations there.
Brilliant. Trent in Denver asks, will local Southern dishes be available to try on board the ship?
Yes. Actually, last month, I was with our Viking Mississippi culinary team as they were doing a lot of recipe testing. So not only will you be able to enjoy some familiar Viking favorites that show up on our other ships, but they have a wide a range of local dishes, similar to the entertainment and enrichment program that Tom has designed for you when you're on board. The culinary program will change day to day, depending on where you are along the river. So expect to see some well-known favorites like beignets and gumbo, and then some other things that are maybe less well-known that our culinary team is excited to share with you.
Thank you. And Karen in the United States asks, how many guests does the new ship accommodate?
386.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And Richard.
Yes, 386. Yep.
And Richard in St. Rose asks, what time does the ship usually depart the ports of call each evening?
The time will vary, sometimes based on time of year and when sunset is, or based on how fast the river is flowing and where we need to go. But typically it's at some point in the evening with the goal of giving you as much time in port as possible.
Brilliant. And Patsy from Cambridge asks, will there be an opportunity to visit New Orleans during the Mardi Gras with Viking?
Tom, did you want to take that one?
Yeah, in fact, we are going to be there in the 2023 on the Sunday prior to Fat Tuesday, which is Endymion, or Bacchus Sunday. So we'll be there on the Saturday, which is Endymion Saturday. And that is the largest day of the entire carnival season in New Orleans as far as the number of parades that are involved. Mardi Gras Day, the parades, there's only two major parades, and they're in usually by midday. But the Endymion parade is a nighttime parade, and it's the largest crew of all the Mardi Gras crews. So you'll be there at a great time to experience Mardi Gras on that itinerary, because the carnival season in New Orleans lasts for 2 weeks and runs across 7 days of parading. So you'll be there for the largest and the most exuberant celebration of the entire carnival on that Saturday.
Great, thanks, Tom. Julia from Bronxville asks, might this itinerary be made available at different times of year in the future?
Elizabeth, did you want to address that one?
I'm not sure if Elizabeth is there, so I might just move on to the next question just for now.
Okay.
We were considering the New Orleans to Memphis, that's the heart of the Delta trip. It looks like many of the same ports, and wondered if the tours are the same in these ports. And that's from Bill in Windsor. I don't know if you can take that one, Tom.
Yeah, the ports, whether that happens to be on a Heart of the Delta or America's Great River, which is the 14-day itinerary, or even the Southern Charms, which is the New Orleans round trip, the short tours experiences are the same in every port, regardless of itinerary.
And thanks, Tom. Do you offer this trip with private travel and embarkation? And that's from Jean in Edinburgh.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Tom, go ahead.
No, you can go, please.
I was going to say, no, we do not. If you need private ground transportation, we can certainly provide recommendations through our customer service center, but you'd need to arrange that yourself.
Perfect, thanks, Elizabeth. Julia in Bronxville, might this itinerary be made available at different times of the year in future?
That is a very good question. I think related to what Tom and I were saying earlier in the Q&A session about river levels and the bridge in Hannibal and designing our deployment around when we can sail certain places. For now, we are likely to offer this itinerary in the winter months because we can only be on the upper Mississippi certain parts of the year, and we want to be able to be there when we can be. So for now, this itinerary will be in the winter only.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant, thank you. Mika from Montclair asks, is Francisville included in the 14-day or the Big Easy extension in the 17th departure from Minneapolis to New Orleans in 2022, as I'm booked on that sailing?
So, sorry, Paul, just to make sure I'm following, is this person asking if St. Francisville is a port stop on that itinerary?
I believe so.
Okay, no, it's not. So to be able to get between St. Paul and New Orleans or the reverse in 15 days or 14 nights, we unfortunately can't stop every place we want to along the river. So St. Francisville is not included.
Thank you very much. Richard from St. Rose says, I'm from the area and hope that the bars can make a good Sanzarac. Do the bartenders practice regional drinks?
Yes, our bartenders on the Mississippi, the Viking Mississippi, are very practiced. Some of them are from the New Orleans area, or they've bartended in the New Orleans area, or they're just really good at reading recipes and have practiced a lot.
Great, thank you. Bernice from the United States asks, we are on the Viking American homeland on September 3rd. We start in St. Paul. Will the music start with polka music?
Yes. The first program would be polka music as we come down the river from St. Paul.
Brilliant. And Rosie asks, can you tell us more about the privileged access experiences available from New Orleans?
Yeah, we have a wonderful privileged access experience that we've designed. We're going to visit the home of Tim Laughlin. Tim is the premier jazz clarinetist in New Orleans. He was a protege of the great Pete Fountain. And he and his lovely wife have a beautiful home that occupies most of a block on Royal Street that they've restored lovingly to its original condition. And Tim has music salons in that space. And so what we're going to do is we're going to bring a small select group of people to Tim's French Quarter mansion, if you will, and they will do an afternoon private jazz concert with Tim and enjoy some libations. And then we're going to give the folks a chance to spend some quality time on Royal Street. And that particular block of Royal is one block from the back of St. Louis Cathedral. So it's a really beautiful part of the quarter, a very charming, quiet part of the French Quarter, lovely shops all along there. So it'll be a great chance for people to hang out on the balcony and watch the traffic on Royal Street, go shopping. There's an art gallery downstairs, listen to a private jazz concert by one of New Orleans' premier musicians. That's just an example of one of the exclusive experiences we've designed.
Brilliant, thanks, Tom. Laurel from Ballston Spa and Dee from New Bern are both asking, is there assigned seating and or an assigned time for dinner? And what is the dress code for dinner?
Nope, there is not assigned seating for dinner. In the restaurant on the Viking Mississippi, you'll have a very similar experience to what you have on our long ships, where it's open seating for dinner in the restaurant, and then upstairs on deck 5 in the River Cafe, it will not be a served dinner. As I mentioned earlier, it'll be somewhat similar to a World Cafe experience where there are lots of stations where you can choose what you eat, and then open seating up there.
Brilliant, thank you. Paula from San Francisco asks, can grandchildren ages 13 and 16 attend, and are there any special activities for them?
No. As you'll find on every other Viking ship, the age requirement on the Viking Mississippi is 18 or older.
Thank you. So I've got two weather-related questions.
Okay.
Firstly, from Christina in Roseville, we're booked for the late July tour of the river. What temperatures can we expect, and do you recommend clothing layering for that time of year? And do you have to be concerned about insects on board? And also, Tisha, what would you understand the weather temperatures to be during the winter cruise along the Mississippi?
Okay, I will take the second question first. In the winter, you're probably going to, on this itinerary, experience weathers in the 50-degree range Fahrenheit, but definitely bring layers. It doesn't happen often, but it can get cold in Louisiana. So bring your jackets, make sure you have something waterproof, etc. Now back to the first question, if you're sailing in late July, you're likely on America's Great River going between St. Paul and New Orleans, or the reverse. It's going to be hot in the Midwest and in the South then. So it can cool off in the evenings, especially in the Midwest, so layer. We do recommend bringing, bug spray, especially if you're going to be off the ship in the evenings. Mosquitoes and other bugs are a thing, but just kind of bring a variety of clothing and be prepared, especially if you are doing any museum tours or other indoor tours. They're probably going to have the air conditioner on, so you may want a sweater or a light jacket, even if it's, pretty hot outside.
Brilliant, thank you. So that's all the questions. Just one final comment left by Larry from Monroe Township, who says, sailing on Viking Mississippi in June 2023, Memphis to NOLA. My wife and I have cruised 25 plus times, but never with Viking. Looking forward to our first cruise on Viking.
Well, we are looking forward to having you. I think you will be very happy with your experience, and we're excited to welcome you on board then.
Brilliant. And that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We look forward to joining you again sometime soon.